The little pink heart on the back of your state license, everyone has seen it. It means organ donor. Just think to yourself, are you one, or do you know somebody who's on the organ donation waiting list? So many humans are suffering each and every day from one faulty organ, and many more are dying waiting for a healthy organ because of the lack of donations on organs and tissues in America. Clearly, organs are are vital to our daily function. People die every day waiting for organ donations, and every day people are donating organs. I have witnessed front and center a family member of mine suffer from a problematic heart. He waited for 13 years for a new heart and was on the heart transplant waiting list. He actually passed away 2 years ago, and he only had 2 slots left until he would have been the next in surgery for a heart transplant. Unfortunately, he had to wait the 13 years, which means that there's clearly a lack of organ donations. Jay Healy stated in a scholarly article called Organ and Tissue Donations that in the United States, more than 10,000 people die every day either waiting for transplantation or as a result of deteriorating health, exacerbated by the shortage of organs. Well, now that we have a basic idea of why transplants are vital and are important, what could the possible lack of organs be? For most people, the potential recipients of organ transplants are already super ill, to the degree that their desperation for organ transplants depends on which organ is failing and by medical means which is available for treatment prior to the transplant. If someone dies of disease, illness, or infection, and they are an organ donor, their organs are probably not suitable for an organ donation, which means although they wanted to donate their organs, they can't because they're not good use and they could possibly harm and be fatal to somebody else. During my internet research on organdonor.gov, they stated, although there are shortages of almost all solid organs and transplants in the countries, the prospects of obtaining a transplant depend on the organ which is needed. The potential recipient's blood and tissue type have to match. There's millions and millions of people in the world, and it's really hard to find a perfect match between one person and another and at the exact and appropriate timing. In contrast, people waiting for a specific organ with no mechanical devices to mimic the organ they need also is also a primary reason on the death rate of people on the waiting list. For example, a liver, there's no alternative device that was created to mimic a liver and clear all the toxins out of a human's body, versus there are synthetic hearts for people who are waiting for heart transplants. In the 21st century, you would think that there are more ways to replace organs, but nobody has yet to come up with a big idea. Even though we have progressed so much in equipment and cures over time, we are moving in the right direction, but slowly. Here in my graph states that the organ shortage continues. In the pink, this is the waiting list for people on the transplant list. Transplants that have actually been done is 10 times smaller than people on the waiting list, and the actual donors donating is even slimmer, clarifying with evidence that there is a shortage in organ donations. With technology constraints under which the early 1950s and the late 1960s, some transplants, like kidney transplants, were required by living donors. Nowadays, there's a lack of living participants, So most people, if they have vital organs, they're not willing to share them with other people. So most organ donations come from people who are dying or are dead. If only we could do it just like on Grey's Anatomy. They seem to have transplants and organ donors and perfect matches every single day. But in the real world, it's very slim. If we will ever be able to find a way to regulate how transplants are done and who gets which organs and which tissues, there has been a law created called the requirement law for any individual who's in the hospital on the organ donation waiting list. By law, doctors and the medical team have to ask his family members if they're willing to donate his organs after using all possible ways to save their life, even if they are not a donor, because there is a shortage. And with family's consent, they can take his body organs that they consent to and donate them to people in the same hospital. As our scientists and our surgeons grow with knowledge and techniques, most of the reason of organ donations are left out of our control. It is amazing that better lifestyles and being alive and the death rate is lowering, but it's very unfortunate that each year millions of people are dying because they're fighting for an organ donation, but yet there is a lack of donors.